Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6, I think, of FFBE Talk.
Yeah, I think this is 6.
There's
If
too
it's
many.
not, it's 6. It's 6 now.
There's too many to keep track of these days. So today we're going to be covering a brand new unit being released, Rivera. And we're also going to cover I think this is the last part of the 3rd anniversary celebration events. The Golden Bomb Raid and the Golden Bomb Trial. And we'll go over the different types of equipment that we think are kind of cool. But let's get into it, Minnie.
All right, let's go.
Rivera is a new unit we're getting. Her job says conductor, but I think she's kind of like a buffer / healer / chainer, kind of.
Yeah, when you look at her skills, it's really interesting. She does have some aspects of her kit that are kind of conductory, and other aspects of her kit that are kind of like she herself is the musician. So it's a bit of a mishmash.
Yeah, I thought it was strange that they did it that way. I thought that initially when I was learning about or looking at the unit through the information, I thought she was going to be more geared into that kind of role of conducting and controlling.
And she does have a couple abilities that are like that, which I love. Like she can designate, okay, you're the taunt tank, you're the physical cover tank. And I love that she can kind of change your unit's roles in your team depending on what she decides. That's kind of conductory. But then she also has these abilities where she herself is doing certain things that seem more like she's the musician.
Yeah, I was hoping that she would literally, I was really, really looking forward to seeing her be the type of unit that can choose who is doing what. So, for example, who is the tank? Who is the DPS unit? You know, I didn't expect it to be quite as... I didn't expect her to be doing quite as much damage dealing or have anything involved with her actually doing any sort of damage or anything to the enemies.
Yeah. Now, her damage is kind of interesting. I'm not sure how it's going to work. It scales with MP, which is really interesting. I don't know if we've had a unit like this in the past.
It's really cool to see that she's scaling with MP entirely. The first unit ever to be scaling with MP.
So, tell me, what do you like about her?
I love the fact that she can create tanks on your team. There's a lot of units that I think would do very well if they were able to full cover. It would kind of synergize well with their kit. They could take on that role for your team and save you the role of having to take, for example, like a taunt tank or a full cover tank in certain situations.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. There are a few units. Right now I'm thinking of Esther. I'm thinking of, what's her name? The new girl, Elena.
Mm-hmm.
They have a decent amount of innate dodge, but I would never want to waste turns. For example, Esther as a taunt. I would never want to waste a turn taunting with Esther.
No, that'd be
but
crazy.
If I had Rivera, I could give up some damage on my Esther, build her for 100% dodge, and then the rest damage, right? So she'll do less than she normally does, but it also would mean I don't have to bring a taunt tank to a trial. And I could replace that with maybe a finisher, which would overall increase the damage of the whole team.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is kind of cool.
Being able to take that extra DPS unit is almost always going to be better in that type of a situation, if it's possible. If a unit like Esther can take advantage of it, or there's a few other units as well that would be really good for it because they do have good counters or good abilities that they cast when countering, or even just some built-in dodge. Like some units have really high base dodge, and it might be worthwhile having them tank up those physical hits and dodge for you, right?
Yeah, and then the other thing is, for example, we had Illusionist Nickel, who was able to do this previously, but he doesn't do anything else, which is kind of like wasting a slot, in my opinion. but Rivera's coming in with some your sort of typical buffer kit, as well as some really nice things like her Hymn of Life ability, which just revives all KO'd allies. That meshes really well. For example, if you're using someone like Folka, like I am, she doesn't have a full sort of raise. She can raise 2 people per turn max, and sometimes it would be nice to have that. So if you're running Rivera as your support, she can fill that gap.
Yeah, I like that she has certain abilities that other healers don't always have or other units don't always have. Another thing that is really nice to have on your team and in her kit is the ability to mitigate some damage. Now, I know a lot of tanks mitigate damage, but not every buffer or every healer comes with damage mitigation for the team, right? And using her to kind of help out in that way can be useful. Or some healers, like if you use Ayaka, her MP recovery is terrible. Like, she is not very good for MP heavy battles. Whereas Rivera can use Chorus and kind of sustain your whole team for a really long time.
And then the other interesting thing she's got is she can give other allies on your team extra damage to different types of enemies, which is kind of new. I mean, we've seen units with it before, but it's never been significant. It's always been like, 20% extra damage to dragons or something like that.
She's applying a full killer.
Exactly, 50 to 75%, depending on how you sort of, I guess, the order you'd use her skills in. But either way, if it's just the 50, it's still actually really, really good. And the key is she can dual cast or triple cast this, so she can hit both of your chainers or both of your chainers and your chain capper if you need to. So she can really amplify the damage against certain enemy types.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be pretty wild seeing how much damage she can increase for a lot of your units between this, as well as her ability to buff up LB damage, which is unique. I think she's the first unit that can cast an ability or her limit burst and be able to buff someone else's limit burst damage.
Yeah, I think that will come in handy. I don't know how much of a difference that particular thing will make. I think it's nice to have. An extra 50% LB damage is definitely a nice hike for a lot of LB-centric units. I think she would work really well with Esther as soon as I see that. It just depends. I don't think it's like super, super insane, but it's definitely a nice to have.
Well, I more look at it as the start of something, right? This is the first unit to have this. I believe that maybe not right away in the near future, but down the line, they will be having units that do this to a greater extent or maybe focus exclusively on this. So it is nice to see the beginnings. And 50% extra damage on some of those LBs like Esther's, like Regina, it's a lot of extra damage.
Yeah, it just depends how much base, I guess, LB percent, whatever extra damage you have already in the kit. That's the thing. 50% is a lot of extra damage, but it's like one of her killer abilities, right? Mm-hmm. It kind of technically just applies a killer except to only your limit burst. So it's good, but to me, the coolest things about her are the conductor aspects, where she can direct one team member to be a tank, and then the Hymn of Life, where she can AoE raise. And then I also just love, I think she passively increases elemental resistance to your team, which is something new. I think just for being in the battle, she gives your whole team a bit of extra elemental resistance, if I'm not wrong.
Does she? I didn't see that. I thought it was just like herself.
She gives 30% dark resistance to all allies just for being alive.
Where? Oh, there
it's called
it is.
Synchronized Rhythm. That's her passive.
Synchronized Rhythm.
I was really
looking for one turn. Yeah.
Yeah, but she recasts it every turn.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I get it now.
So as long as she's alive, your team has it.
Yeah,
if she dies, then obviously
I'm an idiot.
Lose it.
We're good. I'm on track now. The other great thing about all of this is that she is coming with a triple cast. Most buffer support type units will come with a double cast, sometimes even a split double cast, depending on what type of buffing or supporting they're doing. She comes with a full triple cast that can literally cast any ability she wants except her AoE re-raise, which I think is a fair trade-off. If you're reviving your whole team up to 100%, you're taking a turn on that. Like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I think they kind of needed to... Exactly. Like, it would be super, super broken if you could incorporate that.
Yeah,
but otherwise, she can do everything else. Like, she can direct one person to be a tank while also applying buffs, barriers, like dodge. She can make your give your whole team a one attack dodge. It's actually, the more I look at her, the more I think she would be awesome for that Chaotic Darkness trial that recently went live. I tried to do it without having enough elemental resistance and using Fenrir to dodge his threshold AoE physical attack. But after a certain point, he starts doing it multiple times and you can't get by anymore. But if you had somebody like her where you could weave it in with her triple cast or her dual cast, you could actually survive without having to have enough dark resistance on your entire team. It's kind of cool. It's a small, like, niche use, but it's kind of cool that she can do that.
It's very true. Now, one thing we did skip over about her is her TMR and STMR.
Oh, that's true. We do usually start with those.
We usually start with that. Yeah, we're flipping things around. We're flipping
it around, yeah. Normally, we do the events first. Now we're doing the unit first.
We're doing everything weird.
It's backwards day.
It is backwards day. Is it Wednesday?
No, it's not Wednesday. All right, let's go. Let's do her TMR.
So her TMR is the Conductor's Baton. It's a instrument. 200 MP is really nice, I think. And then 90 Spirit is half decent. The main thing that is nice to have on this is that Improvised Serenade, which is auto-cast every turn, where you give someone a free 40 MP. The 500 HP is whatever. It's the 40 MP that's nice. It is random, but it can come in handy just because it's passive. It just exists, right?
And we'll see how the MP scaling is for her damage when we've had a chance to kind of use her and play around with her a little bit. But that 200 flat MP might actually be decent on her, depending on how much damage she actually gets from it. Would be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's the first unit that has spirit scaling, so it's going to be interesting. Sorry, spirit scaling, MP scaling. The first unit that has MP scaling. It's going to be interesting to see how much damage that trades into or turns into.
Mm-hmm.
Now her STMR is the formal suit. Lots of defense, small defense and mag, lots of spirit, and then nice resistance to light and dark. Now again, the main allure here is the effect that it gives you, in my opinion, and it's a 1/3 cost of MP, basically 30% less MP used on all of your abilities. Fantastic.
Yeah, again, super good for a lot of people, but especially good for her because the more MP she has, the more damage she does. She starts running low on MP. You know who had this mechanic? Do you remember that old Halloween boss? The Lich King or something? He used to do this where you had to make sure, if you wanted to clear the trial, you had to make sure to drain him of MP. Yep. Otherwise, he would just destroy your entire team. So we're kind of getting a more balanced version of that.
Yeah, this is pre. The Lich King was Rivera. Just after she dies.
Yeah, after she's mastered her MP scaling abilities.
Pretty much. It's going to be really nice for her in general. Anyone who can triple cast, especially when the cost is really high, like you're spending sometimes 140 MP in one turn, it can be pretty significant. So I like that this exists, and the other piece of equipment that has this is what's their name? Transterra, I think her STMR. It's like a ring.
But it makes a random cast free or something?
No, it's 33% less MP per ability.
Oh, okay.
It literally cuts it in 1/3. It's just that it doesn't have any really good stats that go with it. That was really the big thing that it has. Whereas this piece of clothing has actually decent statistics. Like 74 spirit is really, really good. Some of the higher spirit things go up to like 80 in terms of cloth or robe. So I think that given that it has really good stats, good resistances, cutting the MP down, it makes it like an amazing, amazing piece of robe.
Mm-hmm.
Really quickly to cover her limit burst, because I think it is really fantastic. We mentioned already that it increases limit burst damage by 50% for 1 turn. It's also her strongest buff, a good MP refresh, and it also gives a ton of LB gauge to your allies between 7 to 12 orbs, which is a lot, actually. Oftentimes, like a quarter of their bar will be full just from that.
Yeah, it's a very good support limit burst.
And that pretty much sums up Rivera. She is a really good support, sub-healer, has some ability to keep your team alive as well as revive them when needed. Overall, I think a fantastic unit.
Yeah, I think she's good. I don't think supports are in a weird place right now because a lot of units come pre-built with the buffs they need. So if you're looking at some of the best DPS units we have right now, you're looking at your Xeno, Axstar, Esther, Elena, they can all buff their own attack by 200 or more, or mag, or whatever stat it is that they use. And they can usually keep that buff running for a majority of the time. So supports are in a really weird place right now where I think as a support she's fantastic. But at the same time, I'm not going to be like breaking any doors down to roll for her because I don't think supports as a role in general right now don't add as much to the team as I would like them to. I think the best supports typically these days tend to be elemental resistance supports or supports that do well with general mitigation. I do think she has a role in like where she really excels in specific team compositions, but if you have any of the better supports like CG Nickel or Eurasia or whatever, to me this is a skip in my opinion. What about you?
I agree with that. So I think she is fantastic, and if you don't have your MS Nickel, your Eurasia, there's a couple others that I can't remember right now, but really good supports, you don't really need this unit at all. She does do fantastic in general with a lot of different things, but the extras that she gets on top of the other supports are, in my opinion, not worth using everything to get her.
Right. I mean, she is an upgrade, but not. She's maybe like 10 or 20% better than the best support, maybe, but it's not worth it to spend resources on because when you have a DPS self-buffing for 200% or more and your support's buff is 170%, it really makes you question why bother with the supports. I think running, like adding that much self-buff to DPS units was probably a mistake because it really crowds out the support role outside of battles where you need elemental resistance or you need mitigation. And even that, for example, CG Charlotte now can bring always on mitigation. So supports are really in a tough place. I think probably until we get, what's her name? The Fairy Queen? I can't think of her name right now, but until we get her enhancements, I think supports are going to be in a rough spot for a while.
I agree with you. It's really tough to justify bringing a whole support unit. Even when I'm looking at, for example, if I am bringing CG Charlotte and I wanted to buff the rest of my team, she brings 110%. Yes, 170 is it's way better. It's 60% more. Is it worth sacrificing an entire unit slot for that? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, she's an upgrade, but if you already have something that you can use for those situations where you need a little bit more, it's not worth pulling.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Let's talk about the event that came out at the same time as Rivera. We have the the Golden Bomb Rush. It's another raid, so we replaced last week's raid event with a new raid. Now we're celebrating the 3rd anniversary. We're killing some bombs so they can use some fireworks. It's going to be fantastic. The equipment you're getting in here, in my opinion, the only thing that's even worth looking at is the A-type rifle scope.
Mm-hmm.
It's an accessory. It gives you 20 attack, but it also gives you 20% attack buff as well, which on an accessory I think is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it is definitely a decent piece of equipment.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not amazing, but if you have to complete that craft something today daily mission, be a good one to craft.
The other ones don't bring anything at all that's remotely interesting, so I won't even bother mentioning it.
I was so sad when I saw Eileen's dress in there, but then I
poop.
look at the stats and it's just Eileen's dress, more like Eileen's toilet.
It's funny to see how certain things have become commonplace. So even the 3rd anniversary party guest, it's a materia. It has MP recovery. Now that normally sounds really good, or in the past it sounded really good, but pretty much everything has MP recovery or built-in MP recovery at this point.
Everything either has refresh or there's so many mana batteries in the game that
it doesn't even matter. Yeah. The other thing that we're going to get, and this is next week, so it's not live yet, but they did put out the info for it. It's the King Bomb Challenge. It's the trial version of the raid, and you are able to get Ayaka's umbrella. Now, it's funny that Gumi really hates Aileen, because she gets the short end of the stick every time. Ayaka's umbrella is 108 spirit, which I think for essentially what's going to be a free staff, it is decently strong. 108 spirit is a good amount.
Yeah, it'll definitely keep you going until you can clear the Chamber of Arms and pick up the Holy Rod, which is 120. So I think until you get strong enough to actually do that, this is definitely very, very nice. Because I guarantee you the trial itself is not going to be hard. Because it's kind of the 3rd anniversary celebration. So they're probably going to want everybody to be able to pick up the gear, just, have some fun.
Exactly. They want people to have it just for the fun of it, pretty much. And that will, I believe, conclude the 3rd anniversary events. I believe that kind of brings us to the end of that celebration.
Unless they pull something new on us, it's looking like it. Yeah,
they might. But for now, that's all they've announced. And that brings us to the end of this section of the show, or this part of the show this week. We covered Rivera, who's looking like a fantastic support if you don't have one, and then the two different events happening right now. They are not the greatest, but if a raid is a raid, and I like to take advantage of that EXP and potential to get the 4-star tickets out of the summons.
Yeah, and I mean the raid itself does have a chance, I think, to drop some interesting trust moogles for units you can eventually sell to the coin shop, which is really nice.
Exactly. So definitely take advantage of the raid overall. It's going to be a good one. And that's it for this episode.
Yeah, that's it. Short one this week.
Short and sweet.
But we're going to try to put out some other episodes in between.
Yes, exactly. Okay, bye. I'm just kidding. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have some feedback for us, we're always looking for that. That would be fantastic. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching. And we will catch you in the next episode. Peace.